Terrifying Wraith possession in rural New York. Aunt Sarah's chilling tale. This story comes from a listener we'll call Ram's Child. It takes place in a small, rural town in upstate New York, where I grew up in a big, tight-knit family. Back when I was a junior in high school, I'd heard plenty of ghost stories from the older folks, tales of haunted woods and spirits lingering in old farmhouses, but I'd never experienced anything myself. That is, until one strange summer. My cousin, Jake, had just returned to our family's old farmhouse after years of working in New York City. He came back because his mom, Aunt Sarah, name changed for privacy, had suffered a massive stroke that left her completely paralyzed. She couldn't speak, couldn't eat, and had to be fed through a tube in her throat. Jake and his dad decided to bring her back home to the family farm to care for her, thinking it would be easier for everyone. But then, something bizarre started happening. One day, out of nowhere, Aunt Sarah began moving her arms and legs. She even smiled. At first, it seemed like a miracle, something to celebrate. But the strange part, she only showed these signs of recovery at night. During the day, she was as paralyzed as ever. Even weirder, Jake's dad swore he saw her eating solid food like a perfectly healthy person despite her condition. The family started whispering about an old local legend, a spirit called a wraith that could possess a body, making it act in unnatural ways. They began to suspect Aunt Sarah might be under the influence of such a spirit. To test their theory, the family came up with a plan. They placed a slab of raw steak in the kitchen pantry, and Jake's dad told Aunt Sarah he was heading out to check the traps in the woods. The next morning, the family gathered in secret behind the barn, where they could peek into the kitchen through a window. They waited, hearts pounding, until they saw something unbelievable. Aunt Sarah, who hadn't walked in months, got up, shuffled to the pantry, and started eating the raw steak right there in broad daylight. Jake's dad couldn't hold back. He burst into the house, shouting, "Sarah, what are you doing?" Startled, Aunt Sarah spun around, her eyes wide with panic, and collapsed to the floor, her body limp and paralyzed once again. Jake and the others rushed in, helping lift her back to bed, shaken by what they'd seen. The family was desperate for answers. They called in a local pastor from a nearby town, known for his knowledge of spiritual matters, to perform a cleansing ritual. But instead of helping, the ritual seemed to make things worse. That night, everyone staying in the house heard strange whispers in an unfamiliar language echoing through the halls. Some swore they saw a shadowy figure pacing back and forth. Fear gripped the family, but they stayed strong, keeping watch over Aunt Sarah night after night. The story spread like wildfire through our small town, becoming the talk of every diner and gas station. Then, one day, an old family friend named Uncle Tom arrived to visit Aunt Sarah. Tom was a bit of a local legend himself, known for his knowledge of the occult and folklore. The moment he saw Aunt Sarah, he pulled Jake's dad aside and said, "This ain't your wife anymore. That thing's been taken over. The spirit's eaten her soul clean through." The family begged Tom to help, and though he wasn't sure he could, he agreed to try. Tom instructed the men in the house, Jake, his dad, and my dad, to leave the farmhouse and head north toward the old churchyard. Meanwhile, he tied a blessed rope, sprinkled with holy water, round Aunt Sarah's bed. As soon as he began chanting prayers, Aunt Sarah started laughing, a chilling, unnatural sound. Her eyes rolled back, glaring at Tom with a terrifying intensity. She thrashed wildly, trying to lunge at him. Tom shouted for my dad to splash holy water on her. The moment the water touched her, Aunt Sarah's thrashing grew worse, her body convulsing violently. Tom kept chanting, sweat pouring down his face, until he managed to drape the blessed rope over her head. Slowly, her body went limp, collapsing into her husband's arms. She took one final breath and passed away in his embrace. But the most horrifying part came after. As the ritual ended, a putrid stench filled the room, like something had been rotting for weeks. Aunt Sarah's body looked gaunt and decayed, as if she'd been dead for a month. The family was left in shock, grappling with the reality of what they'd witnessed.